Ever feel like your brain is too fast for a book but too bored by a movie? You didn't lose your attention span, you retrained it. Let's talk about the literal highway in your head and how we're going to rewire it for peace again. Have you ever sat down with the best intentions to finally crack open that book sitting on your nightstand, only to find that 3 pages in, your brain is already screaming for an exit strategy? It's that itchy, restless feeling. The one where your eyes are moving across the words, but your mind is already halfway out the door, wondering if anyone liked that photo you posted or what's trending on the other side of the world. Most of us just sigh, put the book down, and label ourselves as lazy or distracted. We think our attention span just up and left us one day, like a bad roommate who didn't pay rent. But the truth is actually a lot more fascinating, and a lot more physical, than just a lack of willpower. What you're feeling is the literal architecture of your brain at work. Think of your mind as a landscape. Every time you perform an action, you're walking a path through that landscape. Thanks to something called neuroplasticity, your brain is a master at efficiency. It sees where you're walking most often and decides to pave those paths to make the journey easier. Over the last decade, most of us haven't just been walking. We've been driving Ferraris at 200 miles per hour down a very specific route, the digital superhighway. Every time you flick your thumb to refresh a feed, every time you skip a video the second it gets boring, and every time you toggle between 4 different apps in 30 seconds, you are laying down heavy-duty asphalt. You are telling your brain, hey, I need speed, I need constant novelty, and I need a hit of dopamine every 6 seconds. And your brain, being the helpful assistant it is, says got it. Let's build a 12-lane highway for that. The problem arises when you try to do something slow, like reading, meditating, or even just having a long conversation without checking your notifications. Suddenly, you've steered that Ferrari off the 12-lane highway and into a dense, overgrown forest. There's no asphalt here. There are no neon signs pointing the way. It's quiet, it's slow, and it requires effort to move even a few inches. Your brain looks at this slow path, the one for deep focus, and it panics. It thinks, why are we walking through these thorns when the highway is right there? This is inefficient. This is uncomfortable. This discomfort isn't a character flaw. It's just the sound of your nervous system protesting, because those deeper, slower neural pathways have become overgrown from disuse. We've become Olympic athletes at switching and skimming, but we've let our staying muscles atrophy. We're living in a world designed to keep us on the highway, where every notification is a shiny billboard beckoning us back to the high-speed lane. But here's the kicker. Just because the highway is the default doesn't mean it's where you're meant to live. That constant high-speed stimulation keeps your nervous system in a state of low-level fight or flight. Always scanning, always waiting for the next hit. Real focus, the kind that makes you feel grounded and alive, lives in the forest. Understanding that your brain has been physically reshaped by your phone is the first step toward realizing that you can reshape it back. You aren't broken, you're just incredibly well-trained for a world that never stops moving. Now, it's time to start clearing the brush and rebuilding the paths that lead back to yourself. We like to tell ourselves that we're on our phones because we're busy or staying informed. But if we're being honest, most of the time we're just looking for a way out. Think about the last time you were standing in a long line at the grocery store, or sitting in a waiting room, or even just waiting for a pot of water to boil. What was the very first thing you did? You probably reached for your phone before you even realized you were doing it. It's become a phantom limb, a reflex that kicks in the second there is a gap in the noise. This is what I call the digital pacifier. When we were babies and we felt distressed or bored, someone gave us a pacifier to soothe our nervous systems. As adults, we've replaced the silicone with a glass screen. We aren't necessarily looking for content. We're looking for emotional regulation. We're using the scroll to numb the tiny, uncomfortable spikes of human emotion that pop up throughout the day. The real reason it's so hard to put the phone down isn't just because the apps are addictive, though they certainly are designed that way. It's because the phone has become our primary tool for dealing with ourselves. The moment you feel a flicker of loneliness, you open Instagram to see what other people are doing. The moment you feel a surge of work-related anxiety, you jump into your emails to feel productive. The moment you feel the heavy weight of boredom, you dive into a rabbit hole of short-form videos. We are using these platforms to escape the now because the now feels a bit too quiet, a bit too real, or a bit too empty. This creates what I call leaky brain syndrome. You pick up your phone for a valid reason. maybe to check the weather or reply to a quick text from your mom. But because your brain is so conditioned to use the device as an emotional escape hatch, that 5-second task leaks into 40 minutes of mindless scrolling. You wake up from the trance an hour later, feeling slightly hazy and wondering where the time went. Your time isn't actually disappearing. It's leaking through the cracks of your unintentional habits. But here's the deeper issue. By constantly reaching for this digital pacifier, we're actually losing the ability to regulate our own emotions. Emotional regulation is a skill, like playing the piano or riding a bike. It's the ability to sit with a feeling, even an uncomfortable one like boredom or sadness, and process it without needing an external distraction. When we outsource that job to an algorithm, our internal regulatory muscles begin to waste away. We become more fragile. We find that we can't handle even 10 minutes of silence because the thoughts that bubble up in that silence feel overwhelming. The phone isn't just stealing our time, it's stealing our capacity to be present with our own lives. We've traded the richness of the present moment for a cheap, flickering substitute that promises comfort, but leaves us feeling more drained than when we started. We're not using our phones, and the emotions we're trying to avoid are using us. Recognizing the digital pacifier for what it is allows us to see that the problem isn't the device in our pocket. It's the way we've forgotten how to just be without it. Has there been a specific moment lately where you caught yourself reaching for your phone just to escape a feeling? And what was that feeling? If you're feeling trapped in that cycle of leaky time and digital numbing we just talked about, you don't have to navigate the way back alone. I've designed a roadmap called 30 Days to a Better You. It's a step-by-step guide to help you plug those time leaks, regulate your nervous system, and reclaim your focus. You can find the link in the description. Let's start building that intentional life together. If the high-speed highway is where your brain currently lives, then reclaiming your focus isn't about blowing up the road. It's about becoming a trailblazer. We've established that your brain is incredibly plastic. It's a living, breathing organ that reshapes itself based on your demands. The good news that nobody tells you is that neuroplasticity doesn't have a one-way sign. The same biological machinery that made you an expert at scrolling is perfectly capable of making you an expert at deep, immersive focus again. But we have to be honest. The transition feels like absolute garbage at first. When you decide to put the phone in another room and sit down with a book or a sketch pad, or even just your own thoughts, you are stepping off the asphalt and back into that overgrown forest. Because those slow pathways haven't been used in years, they are covered in metaphorical thorns and thickets. Your brain, which is wired to conserve energy, is going to scream. It's going to tell you that you're bored, that you're missing out, and that this focus thing just isn't for you. This is the threshold of discomfort, and most people turn back at the first sign of it. To find the forest paths again, we have to stop relying on willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. It's like a battery that drains every time you have to say no to a notification. Instead, we use friction. If you want to stop driving on the highway, you need to put up some roadblocks. Think about your environment right now. Is your phone always within arm's reach? Does it light up every time a random person likes a photo? That is zero friction access to the highway. To rewire your brain, you have to make the bad habits hard and the good habits easy. This might mean deleting the apps that eat your time and only accessing them via a desktop computer. It might mean turning your phone to grayscale mode, stripping away the bright, candy-colored icons that were specifically designed by engineers to hijack your optic nerve. When the screen is dull and gray, the dopamine hit loses its punch. You're adding friction to the escape hatch. Simultaneously, you have to clear the brush on the slow paths. If you want to read more, don't hide your book in a drawer. Put it on your pillow. If you want to meditate, lay out your cushion the night before. You're essentially building a slip and slide toward the version of yourself you actually want to be. But here is the most important part. You have to embrace microregulation. When that itch to check your phone hits, and it will hit probably every 5 minutes at the start, don't just fight it. Pause. Notice the feeling in your body. Usually, it's a tightness in the chest or a restlessness in the hands. Take one single conscious breath. By doing this, you are manually overriding the high-speed circuit. You are telling your nervous system, we are safe and we don't need to run. Over time, something miraculous happens. The thorns in the forest start to thin out. The path becomes smoother. One day, you'll realize you've been reading for 20 minutes and you haven't thought about your phone once. That's not magic. That's your brain physically rebuilding the infrastructure for focus. You are proving to your nervous system that slow doesn't mean boring, it means deep. And deep is where the real color of life actually lives. As you think about your own daily routine, which slow activity do you miss the most? And what is one tiny roadblock you could put in the way of your phone today to make space for it? We often talk about social media as if it's a giant digital cocktail party, a place where we go to be social. But have you ever noticed that after an hour of scrolling through photos of people you barely know, or even people you love, you often feel more alone than when you started? There's a strange, hollow ache that comes from being connected to everyone and present with no one. It turns out the opposite of scrolling isn't just productivity or focus. The true antidote is connection. When I moved abroad at 22, I was the poster child for this digital paradox. I was in a beautiful new country, surrounded by new sights and sounds, but I spent almost all my time staring at a 5-inch screen. I told myself I was staying in touch with home. I was monitoring the lives of my friends. But in reality, I was using my phone to avoid the raw, stinging discomfort of being a stranger in a new place. I was lonely, and the phone was a way to simulate belonging without having to do the hard work of actually building it. The problem is that our nervous systems are incredibly sophisticated. They can tell the difference between a like on a screen and the warmth of a real human gaze. We are tribal creatures. We evolved to co-regulate with other people. When we are around someone we trust, our heart rates sync up, our cortisol levels drop, and our nervous systems relax. This is co-regulation, and it's something an algorithm simply cannot replicate. No matter how many stories you watch, your brain knows you're still sitting alone in a room. Social media actually makes this worse through the comparison trap. In the real world, if I'm learning something new, let's say a handstand, I feel great when I can finally hold it for 5 seconds. That is real progress. But the second I open an app, I am immediately confronted with a dozen professional gymnasts doing handstands on the edge of a cliff in Bali. Suddenly, my 5 seconds feels pathetic. My real life feels small. The phone creates a world where everyone is ahead of you, which naturally makes you want to retreat back into the numbing comfort of the scroll. To break the cycle, we have to realize that our nervous system doesn't just need less stimulation. It needs more quality connection. This means moving from passive consumption to active participation. It means realizing that one 3-hour phone call with your sister on a Saturday morning, where you actually hear her voice, her pauses, and her laughter, provides more emotional nourishment than a whole month of hearting her Instagram posts. We need to start diversifying our social lives again. We've fallen into this habit of thinking that hanging out has to involve a screen or a bar. But the real magic happens when we do things with people in the physical world. Join a pottery class, a run club, or a community garden. When you are engaged in a shared task with other humans, your attention isn't something you have to force anymore. It flows naturally because you are engaged in the very thing you were evolved to do, belong. The more you build these real-world pillars of connection, the less power your phone has over you. You'll find that when you have a coffee date on the calendar or a group of people expecting you at a workshop, the fear of missing out on the internet starts to fade. You realize that you aren't missing anything important on the highway because the most important things are happening right here, in the dirt, in the conversation, and in the quiet, shared moments of a life lived offline. When was the last time you felt truly nourished by a conversation or an activity with someone else? And how did your relationship with your phone change in the hours following that moment? The final step in reclaiming your mind isn't about a weekend digital detox or a temporary fast. It's about a permanent, beautiful redesign of the world you physically inhabit. We spend so much time customizing our digital interfaces, picking the perfect wallpaper, organizing our apps, setting our notification sounds, that we often forget to curate the space where our actual bodies live. To move away from the high-speed highway for good, you have to create a life offline that you actually want to be present for. You have to build a sanctuary. This starts with the radical act of environmental design. Your brain is essentially a heat-seeking missile for the path of least resistance. If your phone is the most interesting and accessible thing in your living room, you will pick it up. Every single time. To change the behavior, you have to change the scenery. This isn't about punishment, it's about hospitality for your soul. It's about making the things that make you feel alive. The books, the paints, the yoga mat, the tea, the loudest things in the room. Imagine walking into your home and the first thing you see isn't a charging cable, but a comfortable chair with a soft lamp and a book you've been dying to read. Imagine a kitchen where the ingredients for your favorite meal are already visible on the counter. You are intentionally removing the friction from the life you want to lead. You're making it easier to be the version of yourself that is grounded and focused. When you design your space this way, you aren't fighting your brain anymore. You're working with it. You're giving it a different, more beautiful path to follow. But a sanctuary isn't just about furniture. It's about rituals. We've become so used to consuming our way through the day that we've lost the art of the slow process. Think about the simple act of making a cup of tea. On the highway, you'd probably scroll while the water boils, scroll while the tea steeps, and scroll while you drink it. You wouldn't even taste the jasmine. But in your sanctuary, that tea becomes a micro-regulation practice. You notice the steam. You feel the heat of the ceramic against your palms. You breathe in the scent. For those 5 minutes, you are nowhere else but here. These tiny windows of presence are the bricks that build your new neural pathways. As you build this offline life, you will inevitably hit the fear of missing out FOMO. You'll worry that while you're busy smelling your tea, the world is moving on without you. And here is the hard, liberating truth. It is. You are going to miss things. You'll miss the viral memes, the breaking news that turns out to be nothing, and the endless updates of people you haven't spoken to in years. But in exchange, you are gaining the joy of missing out, JOMO. You are choosing to miss the noise so that you don't miss your own life. You'll start to notice that the offline version of you is much more interesting than the online one. You'll have real stories to tell, not just links to share. You'll have a nervous system that knows how to settle and a heart that knows how to connect. This is the ultimate goal of rewiring. Not to become a monk who never touches a smartphone, but to become a human who is no longer a slave to one. Your phone should be a tool that you pick up with intention, use for a purpose, and then, this is the key, put away. It should be a guest in your sanctuary, not the landlord. When you finally reach this point, you'll realize that the slow forest path isn't a struggle anymore. It's home. It's where you can finally hear yourself think, where you can feel your emotions without fear, and where you can look at the world around you and realize that everything you were looking for on the screen was actually waiting for you right here. What is one physical change you can make to your living space today? Moving a chair, hiding a charger, or displaying a hobby that would make your offline sanctuary feel more inviting?